afternoon. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. And as always, I am Reverend Richard Pacheco, or Rev Rich. And I am so glad for you to be here today. And you'll notice that my background's a little bit different. And I think because I wanted to do something from the perspective of our talk today, which is gratitude when you don't see it. One of the things that I always am thankful for is when I can see growth in my life. Now, everything doesn't always work the way we want to, but the problem sometimes is not so much that we don't have the prosperity we're looking for, or the abundance we're looking for, or the things we're looking for. It is the fact that we don't see them. So before I get into our talk, as always, go ahead and subscribe, like, share. Again, if somebody can use this message, and trust me, it's something that's important to everybody, as well as hit the bell so that you will be notified of any video on my channel that is dropped, as well as check out our podcast. And we are playing catch up on our podcast. We had some technical issues with the MP3 versions of our talks, but they will be uploaded within this week so that you can play catch up. And again, I understand sometimes getting on YouTube and watching someone, sometimes just isn't feasible. Like me, when I used to drive to work, that was my drive time university. I would put on a podcast, I would put on an audiobook, and that'd be the time that I would be able to listen to it. Or if it was a nice day, put on some headphones, go outside and enjoy a cup of coffee or whatever it was and enjoy. So we will have that up and running as well. But let's go back to gratitude when we don't see it. So the room I'm in now is my bedroom, and I wanted to do it up here because of the fact that a lot of times we look at going back or starting over as a bad thing, and we don't see the prosperity that's around us. So yes, this is where, when I started doing videos for Unity of Northeast Pennsylvania, I would do it in this room. And I had my computer on a table by the wall, my chair. Literally, I would roll out of bed Sunday, rush to kind of make myself up, get into the chair, start putting together slides. And literally, I'm using the camera I was using back then, which is probably about 10 years old now, and the microphone that I had. Now, of course, if I go back downstairs, I had, in time, the camera got better. The backgrounds got better. I have a better camera, as I said. I have lighting now. I have a setup. I have a stage. But when I look around this room, I start to think about all the things I'm grateful for, where I started from. We wouldn't have had those Sunday services if it wasn't for this camera, this mic, or the software that I was able to find. And we do that in our own lives many a times. In fact, there's two big biblical stories that I think really go with this. And as Jim Rohn says, if you're listening to this and you're not any part of, religious practice, that's okay. Again, I want everyone to get this message. So Jim Rohn used to say, the Bible's a great book for lessons. Just take the religiosity out of it. So, and that's what we're going to do. And the first story comes from the Hebrew text, which of course is the story of Elijah and the woman with the oils. Now, again, without being there presently or whatever the case is, we don't know everything that happened. But we know, when I paraphrase the story is about a woman whose son was about to be sold because she couldn't pay her bills. And when Elijah asked for food or something, then she said, I don't have any, I have just enough for my family. And he told her, go back in there and have them bring all the pots and whatever little oil that she said she had out. And they started to fill the pots, and they were able to fill them and overflow them. And pretty much she went and sold them. Bills are taken care of. Great. But in the paraphrasing, what you need to understand is, did she look at her pantry and say, this is all I got, when in reality, she had more than she can see? How many times do we do that? Even our children. How many times have our children come home and like, there's nothing to eat, but you can go in the kitchen, open every cabinet, and they're stocked full of food? Because their mind is already set on the lack of what they wanted. And there's nothing wrong with going for what you want, but when there is a lack, when your consciousness is looking for lack, that's all we're going to see. Second story comes from our Christian text when we talk about Jesus feeding the 5,000. There's a lot to the story, but one of the things that was pointed out to me recently, I was reading the book, The Power Within by Eric Butterworth, and he was talking about that story. And when the boy brought over, and let's change it to modern times, let's say I'm sitting out on my, on the porch right now, and I have a couple of friends. All of a sudden people come, "Hey Rich, I heard that, you're going to be talking today about some stuff. Can we join you?" Now I've got about 1,000 people sitting in front of my porch like, holy crap, do we get some dominoes? Do we figure it out if we don't have enough money? And somebody comes up and says, "Well, Rich, I have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes. Well, immediately most people would look at that basket and say, that's definitely not enough. They've looked from a point or a vision of scarcity. Whereas in the story, Jesus looked at the bread, gave thanks, and started to distribute it. Because he looked at it as prosperity. I did not have this a few moments ago, and I have been blessed to be given this gift. Now, again, we don't know the story. People could have brought more food, especially mothers with their children would have brought food for their kids to eat. And in turn, people seeing the boy's generosity could have given more food. But again, we have to look through the lens of prosperity and abundance. What can you be thankful for today? I used to practice, and this is where we say our mistakes are our lessons. I was big, and when I learned how to, and we use the term manifest or attract, I remember listening to the book from Wayne Dyer. And I remember, and if you listen to my talk with my daughter, I mentioned him twice, and he has a book called Manifesting Your Destiny. And as I went through the book, I started practicing the principles and all that, and I started to bring things into my life. The problem was that I never looked at it from an abundance point of view. It was more of, I did this, what else can I do? So guess what happened? I lost it just as fast. Michael Bernard Beckwith, Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith from the Agape movement, he has a 4 levels of consciousness, kind of like what we use in Unity. But the second level, which for us would be Victor, someone who thinks that he's, his mindset is that I overcame and I can overcome anything. His is manifester. And it's when we, from a spiritual point of view, begin to, we begin to put into practice these divine laws. And we start to see these things happen in our lives. Some people may call them miracles. Some people are just expressions of law. But they start to happen. But the problem is, from an ego point of view, or from our self-actualized self, we see those accomplishments as a victory. But to have more victories, we have to fall back down to victim to have something happen so we can overcome, rather than having our lives being an example of this victory. But we have to change that lens of how we see things. So today I ask you, look around you. What have you been complaining about not having? What have you complaining about not getting? And then begin to look at it from a different view and give thanks for everything. Even the challenges in our lives, we look back at our past. And again, I've shared this, where the title for my company, With Every Encounter, came from, was the fact that I had some time and I was at Unity of NEPA and I was listening to the live prayer stream from Unity Village. And I was there alone, and it hit me. It said, I've spent so much time hating and putting down all the things that's happened to me, that I didn't, I needed to realize that in every encounter, there was a lesson. And in every lesson, that's a gift. And when I started to do that, I noticed that my internal practices began to change. I began to be more peaceful. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't get triggered from time to time, and that's a whole different lesson, but I do. I realize when I feel attacked that I no longer react in the way I used to. Now it's more of, okay, if this has to happen, let it play out, and then I'll figure out later what it is that I'm supposed to learn from this. We have things that have happened in people's lives that can be traumatic. And, I'm very grateful and thankful that they're no longer happening to that person, and that person may be safe or in a different relationship or just away from what happened. But what lesson can we gain back from it? And we say, no, there's no lesson. And we're going to talk about that next week. In my talk will be gratitude when forgiveness does not feel like an option. But in today's, it's about seeing. See, sometimes we look at the homes we live in and we see the holes and we see maybe some stains or whatever. We don't see the things that we want to see in our home, but we forget to thank the home for that. Or we have a car that runs and maybe there's some technical difficulties in the car, but you can still get in, turn it on, drive. It's still safe and legal. It's been inspected. But because it doesn't have the right radio, it doesn't have the right coloring or whatever, we put it down rather than thank the car. Now remember, everything's energy. So if we're giving off the energy of gratitude, we give it that. And even with our own relationships, our spouses, our girlfriend, boyfriends, whatever it is. Sometimes we get into situations where the relationship may not be working because all we want to do is focus on what we're not getting from it. But can you focus on what you have gotten from it? What can you be grateful for? I say it all the time. I'm not saying that, being two individuals coming together doesn't have its challenges. I mean, I was surprised and I didn't think it would, I would make 20 years with my wife, but here it is, December, we'll be celebrating 20 years of marriage. And it was a lot of trials and tribulations, but a lot of it came from that we spent so much time looking and pointing fingers at each other that we never stopped to look at the man in the mirror. And that would be myself saying, hey, this is what I need to work on. My wife did exactly the same thing. And when we were able to start working on ourselves, we were able to come back together as the true individuals we are supposed to be, or I shouldn't say supposed to be, but the true individuals who we are. Now, does that mean we stop working? No, we still have work to do. I grow every day. I learn every day. One of my interview questions recently, somebody asked me, is like, well, would you be willing to learn and take a deeper dive into a subject? And I said, I'm always a student. I love to learn more because when I learn more, I can help. That again comes back to being grateful. The old Rich probably would have said, well, what's wrong with what I know? I have a certification. I have this. I have that. What is it what I know? But in turn, I looked at it and said, well, here's an opportunity to take a deeper dive. Some of you know that, as a metaphysician, I have decided to go back and get my degree in metaphysics because I want to grow that much more, to offer that much more to the people I do speak to in our spiritual community. I'm finishing up a transformational coach certification because that's where I see myself, as in transformation. I know I had to change my mind, so I'm grateful for those things. And I see that in some places we say seeing God in other people, seeing God in everything helps us to become more abundant, because when we can see it, when we can see the what is all around us and what is going on, we know that we are abundant. There was something I mentioned in our meditation Mondays, which was how, where we may look at our home and say, this is broken down. We want better. We want this. And we complain and complain. Not that we can't want something better. My wife and I talked about that. I would love to one day have a cabin in the woods, small cabin, or it doesn't even have to be cabin, just a small house by a lake where I can write my lessons and write my meditations, sitting on a bench by the lake, just allowing the water, the energy. I used to live by the beach, and I've always believed as being someone who loved the energy of the water. My wife and her tiny house, that's her thing. But either way, we're not, but we bless this house. I have My Reiki studio is downstairs. I have, my coaching area downstairs. My daughter's learning to be a life coach now herself, and she's become Reiki practitioner. My wife is now a Reiki practitioner. So we bless this house constantly and say thank you, because to the homeless person, this is a palace. When we complain that we don't have food, a certain food or something that we crave, but we have food in the car, in our cabinets, that we can make something, rather than curse it, why not make it, eat it mindfully, be grateful for every bite and taste, and know that to someone who's hungry, that is a gourmet meal. But we step behind that because our self-actualized self says, I deserve better. And that might be the knocking on your door. But you'll never get anything more until you generate the energy to attract that into your life. So if you're constantly repelling by staying in lack and scarcity and can't see what is going on, then you'll have a problem. And I apologize, looking up quickly the lyrics to a song I wanted to leave with you, because I use that song to help me remember this. So we have to put on those glasses. I remember one sermon I did. I had a guinea pig with love glasses, as we call it. But it's the same thing here. Sometimes we have to put on those abundant glasses, that prosperity glasses, that when we look at stuff, it's no longer that we don't have, but we have. We are grateful. I love what I have, and I thank it every day. But but we have a problem where we no longer want to see the beauty and the love from that place. And I do apologize for being a little distracted here. Again, I wanted to do it exactly like I used to do it by myself here. My daughter's a big help in the company now, and she does the recordings for me, and she's posting them now, so I've taught her that. And again, here's a gratitude, because I have someone in my life who wants to learn something, and she learns something constantly. So she's getting a gift, because she can take those skills onto something else she may want to do. So again, I ask you, look around your life. What have you been complaining about lately? And begin to see it. And yes, it is hard sometimes. I have an opportunity that I've been waiting for almost a month now. And it's been put into my plate that it seems like they are very interested in me, want me to get started, but due to some legalities and all of that, we're waiting for how this will happen. And the other side of it is kind of pushing and nudging me, going, yay, it's time for you to make a change. And every day it gets a little harder and harder for me, but I still sit there and I say I'm grateful for the opportunity I'm in now. I am grateful for the opportunity coming, and I try to stand in faith and strength that everything will turn out the way it goes. So the song that I'm talking about, and I've introduced this before, is called Haven't Seen It Yet by Danny Gorky. And I love the song because it actually starts off with him singing, have you been praying and you still have no answers? Have you been pouring out your heart for so many years? Have you been hoping that things would have changed by now? Have you cried all the faith you have through so many tears? And it reminds me every time, especially like with this opportunity that I'm waiting for, that I want to push it, but I have to remember it's not always on my time. It's when it's ready to happen. It's not always going to be my way, but the way it needs to unfold. So when I go and listen to this song, I love the middle section because it literally says, or the verse, I should say, is, or the chorus. It is the brightest sunrise waiting on the other side of the darkest night. Don't ever lose hope. Hold on and believe. Maybe you just haven't seen it, just haven't seen it yet. You're closer than you think you are. Only moments from the break of dawn. All his promises are just up ahead. Maybe you just haven't seen it, you just haven't seen it yet. And when I put on that song, and again, he sang it, and that was my point when I was going to try to sing it today. But like I said, due to the equipment, I figured probably would have sounded better downstairs. But either way, it is. So if it's Danny Gorky, haven't seen it yet, listen to it anytime you doubt your abundance. I love it again because it kind of reminds me that, you know, whatever source, God, whatever it is for you, is our source of abundance, because it comes in the ways of ideas, dreams, and we must act upon them. And that'll be my last talk in this series, which is gratitude, the action needed. Because like our fifth principle, without action, there is nothing we can do. We can know all the truths, we can know all about gratitude, we can say we're feeling it, but without taking the action, it'll never happen. So today's action, begin to see in your life what is there. And if you can't see it, just know you're on the precipice just because you're making this practice. If you didn't join us on Meditation Monday, go to Meditation Monday, and I did a meditation exercise of looking around your surroundings. And you can do that meditation everywhere. If you think your neighborhood is not the greatest, while the weather is nice in your area, or maybe where we're at, it's kind of nice and mild right now, you could sit outside and look around. And where you used to curse it, bless it today. Where if you're having problems with your family, look back and ask yourself, what can I say thank you for? And look for those moments of gratitude and see that in the person. Trust me, I've been down this road and I know exactly what it is to be in situations where you're like, how can I be grateful for this? And now here it is. I can look back and go, wow, I can be grateful. I can be grateful for every person who's passed through my life. I can be grateful for everything. And I thank God every day that the opportunities that I have are here, and that I have the ability to talk to you, to talk to my family, and to be available to people. You know, one last story, and again, none of these stories are meant to impress you, but more to impress upon you that if it looks bleak right now, changing your perspective to that of I am abundantly rich will change things. You know, we had a recent change where I was said, you know, it's time to take a rest. It's time to let go of what you've been doing every week and pushing yourself and planning and all that, and take a rest. Now, it was put in other terms, but that's how I took it, because again, I'm grateful for every opportunity I've had, every opportunity I'm still involved with, and I am grateful. But in that time when I finally let go of the need of I have to be there and have to control and have to whatever, things started opening up. So here it is, thinking I'm just going to rest for the next couple of months, a year, whatever it is. Most ministers take a sabbatical. I was just ordained a minister, so, you know, I didn't think sabbaticals, you know, were something that was meant for me. But I figured, okay, this is a great time to take a rest. Well, in that time, I was asked to perform 2 weddings, a funeral, counseling. You know, I am planning a convention, a 3-day virtual convention. I am still working with another group as their webmaster. I have other opportunities that continue to come in where I'm sitting here going, okay, I thought this was my rest period. But how I see it in gratitude is that the door opened up because I was holding on to such a wide vision of what I'm supposed to do that I missed the narrow path that takes me down the job I need to do. And I am grateful to each and every one of you who listen to these and get something from it. So once again, homework, start to look around you and see what it is you are grateful for. These surroundings were my beginning of doing these videos. There was a time I would never put my face on a video. And now I do at least 3 to 4 videos a week. You've seen me in Halloween paint now. You've seen me in different clothing and shirts. You've seen me in everything where 2-3 years ago I would never have done it. But I'm so grateful that I do have this opportunity to speak to you, to help you. And I really don't care if you're 15 years old or 115 years old. These principles work for everyone. Do I know everything? No. But again, I see where I'm meant to be. I see that I need to continue to learning so that as people start learning these principles and catch up, I need to be prepared to help them learn more and get even better. Because again, we're all on a journey. It may not be the same journey, may not be the same path, but it is one main goal, to be the best we are. And I guarantee you that you have a lot to offer, and the world is just waiting for you to learn, to look at everything, become grateful, become that light. Because when we become grateful, when we become that light, others see it and they begin to learn these practices of gratitude. And imagine a world where everyone is grateful for everything. And we share that with each other. So as always, if no one else has told you, I love you. And there's nothing you can do about it. I bid you namaste, as the big, beautiful divinity in me sees that big and beautiful divinity in you. Check out our other shows, and I hope you get something from this. And as always, leave comments, like, share, and I will see you on our next episode.